Hello everybody, thank you for watching Hot Button Hashtags. My name is Adam, and today is the first video where we are jumping into a topic. 2 days ago I introduced myself, yesterday Matt introduced himself. If you missed either of those videos, make sure you go and check them out. So today's video feels appropriate. It feels like the right thing to start this with, you know? This series, this show, whatever you want to call it, exists to talk about the things that you are talking about. Talk about the things that are dominating the hashtags. And over the last number of months, I can't think of anything that has been more maybe prevalent than this issue of racism. From Ferguson to the Baltimore riots, it seems like this has been one story after another of injustice and riots and peaceful protests happening. And so what a perfect way to start this. And part of me can't believe that in 2015 we're still having to talk about racism, but we are. And in fact, that's kind of where I want to start, because see, the irony isn't lost on me that I am a 35-year-old white guy, like I am really white, in Alaska of all places. I'm not in the deep south, I'm not in the Midwest, I'm not in Ferguson, I'm not in Baltimore, I'm in Alaska. And so why would I talk about racism? What experience could I possibly have? So as I thought about this, I thought back to the first time I realized that racism was not something that my parents' generation dealt with and it was done with, and now we just get to kind of live in this colorblind world. In my early 20s, I was engaged to a woman here in town who had 3 sons. Their dad was black, she was white. And when I would take the boys out, when we would go to a store, I began to notice that the way they were treated and the way they were viewed was really different than anything I ever experienced growing up. You know, I distinctly remember the very first time we went to a convenience store close to our house, and I walked in a few seconds before them, and the clerk behind the counter paid no attention to me. I walked, a few steps in the store, and the boys came behind me. Now, obviously the clerk didn't know we were together, but as soon as they walked in, like, his full attention, not just like, oh, okay, but I mean, he was focused on them. And the entire time we were in the store, I started watching him. And I noticed that wherever they went, he would follow. Like he was waiting for them to do something. I remember kind of being ticked off about that, because this is something that I had never experienced in my life. I think Alaska is a pretty tolerant place. None of my friends growing up, at least I didn't think, ever had to experience anything like that. Yet here were these really great, these 3 boys who were really good boys, are being watched like a hawk because of nothing that they ever did. And I saw that happen time and time again when we would go to stores and restaurants and places like that. Now, it was not every store. It was not even the majority of stores. But the fact that it happened was crazy to me. And so I began to realize that this issue of racism, while we have begun to deal with it and while we have made a lot of steps, we are not over this. We are not yet to the point where we can say racism is dead in our culture. Now, by saying that, I am not saying that I think Freddie Gray is innocent or guilty. I'm not saying that I think Michael Brown is innocent or guilty. I don't think those are the issues for me in this. The issues for me in this is that this is still something we need to talk about. This is still something that we need to get right. Because what I've seen happen in culture over the last few months is a lot of generalizations. And generalizations are always deadly. When we say one person did this, then all of them do this. That is a horrible way to live our lives. And so when we begin to say, one bad cop means that all cops are out to kill young black men, that is not true. Almost every police officer I know serves because they love people. They want to protect people, they want to serve people, and that's the heart they serve with. And so, do I think there are some cops who are power hungry and that goes to their head? I do think that that's probably true. But remember, not every cop is that way, so we can't generalize them. And at the same time, you cannot generalize young black men as all thugs and all belonging to gangs and like everyone is out there, throwing Molotov cocktails in the Baltimore streets. That is not the case. If you go on Twitter and you start searching hashtags, you will see that there's a lot of good that is happening in Baltimore. There's a lot of people who are protesting peacefully. There's a lot of people who are not going about this the wrong way. And so if we are willing to put aside generalizations and start to see that maybe there is some truth on both sides of this, and start to see things through the other's eyes rather than just maybe writing them off, I think that would be a really good thing. I think that it would be helpful for us to keep talking about racism. I think it would be helpful for us to say, you know what, maybe we have not solved this issue yet. I think that's what we need to do. I have a friend who lives in the Midwest who has 2 kids of his own. He and his wife are both white, and they've adopted a little black boy. And it's been really crazy to kind of watch him struggle and wrestle with this reality that he will have to raise that son differently than his other 2 kids. The world that his son will grow up in, while it may be the same world, the circumstances and the situations for him will be different because of the color of his skin. Now that is really uncomfortable to say. And as a white person, like, sometimes we don't like to admit that that's true. You guys, that is true. Like, we don't get to debate that reality. I've seen it with my own eyes that that is true. I have lots of friends who have shared their experiences with me, who have said that, yeah, it is true that the way you are looked at in society is different than the way that they are looked at. And so let's keep talking about this issue. Let's not focus on maybe some of the attention-grabbing headlines, the people who are rioting, because for every 100 people who are rioting and going about this the wrong way, there are hundreds of people who are peacefully protesting, who are trying to seek change the right way. You just don't ever get to see them on the news because that doesn't raise viewership levels. You don't ever get to read about them in the newspapers because that doesn't help circulation and readership numbers. Those things are happening though. So remember, generalizations, absolutely deadly on both sides. There is truth on both sides. We have got to keep addressing this issue. We've got to keep talking about this issue. My hope is that there will come a day in my life when we don't have to talk about this anymore. But the reality, as sad as it may be, and as much as we may not want to talk about it yet, that day is not yet. We still have a lot of work to do. Thank you for watching Hot Button Hashtags. Would you leave me a comment below? Tell me what you think about this topic. I know it's awkward to talk about. Like, I'm making a video about it and I'm kind of like squirming in my own skin here. So leave me a comment below. Let us know what you think about this whole issue, what you think about Ferguson or Baltimore or race riots, that kind of stuff. Remember, keep it civil. We want to have healthy dialogue. We don't want to have name calling and craziness. So let's have a discussion that is helpful, not a discussion that is hurtful. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to our channel if you have not. We have lots more videos like this coming up. Tomorrow, my co-host and friend, Matt Beers, is taking on... He really got lucky with this one because I'm talking about racism. Tomorrow, on May 4th, he's talking about Star Wars Day. So it's going to be a ton of fun. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.